Arminians and Provisionists, when dealing with Romans 9:11 through 13, often think that the way to escape the Calvinist meaning of the passage is to refer back to the Old Testament quotes from which Paul is drawing from. However, even if we do that, they're still not fully recognizing what Romans 9 would be saying about that anyway. But actually, if we do look at Genesis 25 and Malachi 1 carefully, which is where Paul is pulling these quotes from, you'll see that there is reference to both the individuals as well as nations. So it is in reference to both the person Jacob, the person Esau, as well as the nation of Israel and the nation of Edom. And regardless of, even if you took a position that it's not individuals or it's not nations, but it's, whatever is the opposite of what you chose, or if you have a both and situation like I see, you're still going to arrive at the same problem from Romans 9. So what happens is the Arminian or Provisionist does a bait and switch where they take you to these Old Testament passages, but then forget what Romans 9 is teaching. So you can't just refer back to a different passage and then not consider the implications of that back into Romans 9. So just as a general rule of principle, the best way to study the Bible is the immediate context. So without even having to refer back to these other passages, if you let the New Testament speak for itself here, you're going to arrive at an inescapable conclusion. The problem is people don't like that conclusion, and so they try to do anything they can to get around it. But it's truly amazing that I think they can get away with this, because Romans 9:11 says, "For the children, being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth." So, if the children refers to nations only, well, guess what? It's still the children of the nations. It's still the individuals of those nations that are not yet born, that have not done any good or evil. And God is just simply, without any regard to them doing anything, he's saying, "Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated." So, and this obviously pertains to salvation, because if God loves you, you're going to be saved. If God hates you, you're going to be damned. So unless you don't think that when it's referring to nations, there's no salvific connection to that. That's just a separate thing. There's individual salvation, and then there's the blessings and cursings for nations. Well, the problem is that has to relate back to, as it says, the children. It's the children, which are individuals. And then, of course, the passage goes on to talk about Pharaoh, which there's no conservative Bible believer who's going to say that Pharaoh is not an individual. So either way, you are still left with the same problem. God chose Jacob and hated Esau. Again, I think it's perfectly relevant to see it as nations and individuals. I think both are completely relevant. But if you just look at how it is in the immediate context, of course it's the person. We got to see that, because this is in Rebekah's womb. Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated, without regard to them doing any good or evil, so that the purpose of God according to election stands. So, again, your only option, if you're going to be a Provisionist or Arminian, is to say that the love of God, that's not for salvation here, and the hatred of God here, that's not for damnation either. That's the only way around this stuff. So, and of course that's ridiculous. John 3:16, right? For God so loved the world. Of course, any Arminian agrees that the love of God has everything to do with salvation. So it makes, if you're going to say this about Romans 9, the love, that's not about salvation for people. the hatred that's not about damnation for individuals that or that hatred doesn't lead to their damnation. I mean, you're just simply picking and choosing your theology as you see it, instead of deriving it from the text. And of course, this passage will later on to go to show you that, hey, it's for he saith to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. And then, therefore, having mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he will he hardeneth. This is all connected. If you don't see it as individuals at all, you have a really convoluted understanding of Romans 9. But again, even if you prefer to see Romans 9, 11 through 13 as nations, well, it's still the children of those nations, and those children have not existed yet. Those children are, well, let me say it this way. They're in the womb, but they have not come out of the womb, and they haven't done any good or evil. One is loved, one's hated. So Calvinism still wins.